Hello and welcome to this episode of Tween Talk Live. If you are joining me live, welcome, welcome. And today we are talking about 5 easy ways to start a conflict with your tween. And this is a little bit of a play on a YouTube video I watched recently that kind of flipped the switch on how you were perceiving something. So, what are 5 easy ways to start a conflict with your tween? Of course, you don't want to start a conflict with your tween, but what if you are unintentionally starting a conflict with your tween? Let's look at what some of these things are and let's see how we can not do those things and maybe improve our relationship. All right, let's get started. Before we do, I'm Marina Gabor. I am the founder of Tween Talk, empowering moms to raise independent kids, and the Life Skills Club. Life Skills Club is for tweens. You can find it at lifeskills.club. All right, let's dive right in because we've got 5 things that could be why you are ending up in conflict with your tween. So, number 1, thinking that you need all of the answers. Thinking that you need all the answers. Now, I remember, and I wish it was like, I remember a long time ago when this happened, but sometimes I still feel like I need to have all the answers. My daughters are looking to me for advice. And I just need to have it for them. I need to know about everything and have the advice for them and the answers. And the older they get, the harder it is to have all of those answers. When they were little kids, way easier. You know, they ask you a question, you answer it, you feel like super mom. And then as they get older, the questions get harder and I don't have all the answers. So when I think that I need all the answers, sometimes then I just end up saying something and maybe they ask me for something and I say no. And I say no because I'm scared to say yes because I don't really know the answer. And then there's pushback. And then I dig my heels in because, I already said no. And then it's hard for me to change my mind. I don't know. Anybody else have that experience? But there is another way. So instead of thinking that I need all the answers and that causing this butting of heads, this conflict, I can encourage independent problem solving. So instead of saying no, because I'm not sure, and so I'm just going to say no, I could say, let's talk this through. Let's think this through. Let's solve this problem. And I can guide them through that problem solving process and encourage them to be, it says independent in their problem solving. At the stage in the tweens, it's more you're coming alongside them, you're coaching them, you're giving them a decision making model and saying, hey, let's try this and let's come to let's solve this problem. Let's figure this out. And then it's a win on both sides. You don't have to have the answer. You're saying, let's figure this out together. And they feel like, oh, wow, this is amazing. I get to be part of this decision-making, problem-solving process. And then whatever answer you come to, not only do you have this shared experience, which builds the relationship, they're also going to own that solution much more than if you just like handed it down to them. All right. Number 2, not admitting your own imperfections. So if you want an easy way to start a conflict, just pretend to be perfect. You know, be that airbrushed, perfect, nothing gets me down. I have an answer for everything. I'm good. That's a good way to have a conflict. Then when they say, you don't understand what I'm feeling, they actually think that because they think that you're perfect. But is the answer to just like kind of open the coat and say, look at all of my imperfections? Some parents kind of go all the way on that extreme. Others go, I'm pretty perfect. I don't want to show my imperfections at all. So there's this continuum. So I don't know where you fall on that continuum, but let's think about this for a minute. What if we could share the imperfections of the moment? So you don't have to share every imperfection in your past, but when something happens and your imperfection is laid bare, it's out there, everybody sees it, everybody knows it. For you to not admit that you did something wrong, that something was not perfect, that something didn't work out, it's silly. Your tween can see it. And that's going to cause some tension, some friction, some conflict. So instead, in that moment, model some emotional expression. This doesn't mean that you're like just letting everything hang out, emotionally speaking. But it does mean like we've had different experiences over the years um, that have led to less perfect um, situations. And I've had to model emotional expression. So, what is it, like 10 years ago? We experienced a flood. There was a lot of emotional expression during that time. A lot of, wow, you really see what you're made of. Your imperfections are there. And instead of hiding that, hiding how I was processing things, then I thought, okay, my daughters need to know that it takes, we need to process some emotions. How do we do that? I'm not perfect at that. Do I need to apologize? What do I need to do? How can I model that? And then they see that and they go, oh, wow, mom's a person. And in this situation, she expressed these kind of emotions. So when I'm in this kind of a situation, oh, it's okay to express some emotion. So rather than just shutting down and not showing anything and just pretending everything is fine, we are showing some emotional expression, and that's going to help our tween. Now, I think of this story, and I don't know where it's from. It's floating around, and it's of these two coins, or same side of a coin. And often it's I've heard it shared in the context of customer service, and I think this can also be used in this example. So you have a coin, and on one side is sort of like this calm demeanor, and on the other side is like a lot of expression, a lot of outpouring of angst or whatnot. And in every interaction, you have a choice. Are you going to use the calm side of the coin, or are you going to use the rather excitable, agitated side of the coin? And it doesn't, they can both be positive, but in every interaction, there's going to be one person using one side, which means the other person has to use the other side. So if there is a situation and I remain calm and I don't take any ownership over over the imperfection, over what's wrong, over nothing, then the tween, they have to rail at me for that imperfection. It's almost like they have to. Whereas if I said, oh my goodness, I totally screwed up. This is what happened. I'm sorry. This is how I'm going to make it better. So I'm modeling some emotional expression. I'm taking that more exuberant, if you will, side of the coin. And then they can't rail at me for being imperfect then because I've already done that. So then they go, well, it wasn't that bad. And then it diffuses some of this potential conflict. All right. Here's number 3. Here's another way, easy way to start a conflict with your tween. Enforce rules without open dialogue. When my kids were little, and maybe you're in this situation too, your kids are little and you're the caregiver, like you're in that caregiving role of parenting. And part of that role is giving instruction, like they don't know how to do anything. So we're telling them what to do. We're telling them how to do it. We're telling them when to do it. We're telling them why to do it, like all of the things. And then they enter that tween years, all of a sudden, like they're 8, edging towards 9 and up, and things start to change. So now you're telling them how to do stuff, and these are the rules, and this is what we do. This is what happens if you don't follow the rules. And that worked when they were kids, because that's how their brain works when they're kids. They're told what to do, they know what to do. That's good. As they enter the tween years, they start doing some thinking for themselves. Oh, well, what about this? And I want to expand. I want to be a little bit more independent. I want to separate a little bit. This is the natural progression. It's healthy. This is what should be happening. But if we're still enforcing those rules without doing any talking about it, we're going to have conflict. Lots of conflict. So what do we do? What if instead we involve them in decision making? Now, this doesn't mean that as the parent, you don't set any rules. That's not what I'm saying. 100% not. What I am saying is there are some rules that directly impact your tween that they could have a say in, where what made sense for them as kids doesn't make so much sense for them as they're in their tween years. So we can have a discussion. We can talk about, okay, what is the rule about this? Why did we have this rule? And what do you think the rule should be now? Like there needs to be some boundary. Rules are just boundaries. Rules are just saying like these, like this is the playing field. This is where we're going to be. That's the thing. So when they were a kid, maybe it was here. And now as they're a tween, maybe they're saying, you know what? I'd like to be able to ride my bike to the park that's like 3 blocks away instead of right next door, whatever it is. They just want to expand that boundary. So an easy way to dissolve that conflict is discuss it. Get them involved. Get them to tell you, why should you expand their boundary? How do you know they're responsible enough to handle it? Like talk it through. And as you talk it through, they might realize, oh, I'm going to have to step up. And then you can watch them step up and then slowly increase the boundary. So there we have it. So first of all, we thought we needed all the answers. And then we realized, actually, we can encourage independent problem solving. Then we said, oh, well, I don't have to admit my imperfections. That's going to cause some conflict. Or instead, what if we modeled emotional expression? And we just talked about enforcing the rules without open dialogue, tension, conflict, and instead involving them in that decision making. Now, number 4, this is tricky. Dismissing your tween's emotions. instant conflict. Almost guaranteed. I don't like to guarantee anything, but if you want to start a fight with your tween and they tell you how they're feeling and you say, "Really? You feel that over that little thing?" There's a good way to wreck your relationship, cause a conflict, and you probably didn't even know you were doing it. Probably unintentional. I found I really had to work at this because as an adult, I've got life experience. My worldview has been expanded by, people I've met, places I've traveled, things I've studied. I have all of those things that are shaping how I'm viewing my world. But then when I started thinking about my daughters, then I had to think, huh, their experiences are like this. They have this much educational experience. They have this much travel experience. They have this much life experience. So when they're expressing this emotion, they're saying, okay, through my limited lens, this looks like a really big problem, and I don't know how to handle this emotion. It is a big deal for them. 100% a big deal. They're feeling all of those emotions that they're expressing. They're very real. So when I would just kind of discount or dismiss what they were feeling because it didn't make sense, like the big scheme of things, like this is nothing. They didn't feel heard. And I could have changed that quickly. And eventually I twigged in and I figured it out. And I'm like, oh man, don't do this, Marina. This is not good. Instead, actively listen, practice active listening. I think this is one parenting skill that has like the biggest impact and is the most difficult. I don't know. Let me know in the chat. If you're watching the replay, welcome. Please let me know in the chat. What do you think? Is active listening one of the most difficult parenting skills? It's like listening with intention, listening without thinking about, okay, well, what am I going to say next? What do I have to tell them? What instruction do I need to give them? And actually just like, what are they saying? What are they saying under what are they saying? Like, what is the intention? What do they mean? What are they telling me that they feel sad about this or they're mad about this, but why are they mad about that thing? What is the root of what they're trying to tell me? What is their heart? I know as I've been practicing active listening over the years, and yes, I say years, it's gotten better. But I always think of this 5-to-1 rule. I think I heard it from Mel Robbins, maybe. But it just struck me. For every 1 minute I talk, I need to let them talk 5. Or think about it the other way. They come to me and they start talking, and I think, oh, I've got an answer for them. I need to interject. And then I think, And I actually look at the clock and go, okay, they've been talking for like 15 seconds. I've got a long time to be quiet still. And then they talk a little bit more. And then they're quiet. And I think, oh, now I can talk. And then I look at the clock and it's literally been like maybe a minute and a half. And I go, still not my turn to talk. Now, obviously, that's not a hard and fast rule, but it does help me for sure. Because often, if I keep my lips zipped and my ears open, they will keep talking. And then I'll find out what's actually going on. And then I get to know them better. There's some relationship stuff that's going on, that's really good. It's building up this relationship. They're feeling heard. They're feeling understood. And then I can say, do you just need a listening ear? Or do you want to help? Do you want some help solving this problem? And sometimes they just need to talk about it. Other times they don't know what to do. Help me out here. And so that's when we can get with the problem solving. So if you want a conflict, dismiss their emotions. If you want to build that relationship, proactive listening is where it's at. And finally, the fifth way, easy way to start a conflict with your tween is by not adapting your parenting approach. And we sort of touched on it in all of these things. But again, I know my daughters are really close together. And so my first daughter entered the tweens, and I was like, huh, I don't know, something has changed here, but I didn't really clue into what was going on. And then the other two followed suit quickly, and I realized, oh, all right, we're in a new era here. I need to change how I'm parenting because this isn't working. Like, I can't just give instructions. I can't give marching orders. I can't just tell them what to do, expect them to do it without some sort of dialogue. So then I ended up getting a lot of back talk. Well, why am I getting back talk? Oh, because they're trying to be independent. They're trying to express their thoughts. Oh, so let's figure out how to do that respectfully. So once you get over that speed bump and realize, okay, we're just in a new phase, great. Then you can do something about it. Then you can realize, okay, so now I'm in a coaching mode. How do I parent as a coach instead of just as a caregiver? It doesn't mean when I say that we want our kids to be independent, it doesn't mean they don't need us ever. It means we're alongside them on this journey as they're moving towards adulthood, and we're saving a relationship. And because they have that relationship with us and they feel secure there, they're ready to go out and try something independent, come back. Try something independent, come back to the safe space. So instead of not adapting your parenting approach, you can discuss boundaries and responsibilities. Like we were talking about, biking from here, and now we can bike over here. But even other things, there's lots of new experiences coming up in the tween years. So what boundaries and responsibilities do they have in the childhood years? How are those changing in the tween years? And here's the other thing I learned as my daughters progress through those tween years is it changes perpetually because they're learning new skills and they're building on those skills. And each skill that they're learning, they're a little bit more independent, which means the responsibilities change, boundaries change, and so it goes. But it's really cool because you get to be part of coaching them through this. And when you do, you'll save the relationship. And when they hit the teens, that's a whole other story. But if you build this foundation in the tween years and you've strengthened your relationship and you've set up this idea of, okay, we're increasing the boundaries with responsibilities, and it's this like adaptive parenting to where your child is, not just like, oh, tweens in general, but where's your kid at right now? And then parent that kid where they are right now. And then as they grow and mature, you change, and so on and so forth. All right, so there you have it. 5 ways to start a conflict, but what we really want is the opposite. So what we're really going to do is encourage independent problem solving, model emotional expression, involve them in decision making, practice active listening, and discuss boundaries and responsibilities together. Now, Which one are you going to try this week? Problem solving, emotional expression, decision making, active listening, discussing boundaries and responsibilities. Like, just pick one. Which one of these, if you made a slight change, would have the biggest impact on your relationship and resolve the most conflict? So think about those areas. At which point are you most butting heads? Pick that thing and then determine, okay, you know what? My kids think I'm perfect. I need to own up to some things. So I'm going to be a little bit more vulnerable. I'm going to own it. We're going to talk about it. They can see how to appropriately handle things when things don't go totally right. Maybe you're working on emotional expression, and that's the thing. Awesome. It's going to be better. I want to thank you for joining me for this episode of Tween Talk. I hope it has been helpful. Please feel free to leave a comment in the chat or come see me at tweentalk.co. Or if you are interested in having your kids learn some of these life skills in the Life Skills Club, you can go to lifeskills.club. So until next time, pick your thing, chat with your kid, build your relationship. It's all about Tween Talk.